I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. I am for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. I was walking asleep, dreaming I was away. This world confused me. Yet it led me astray. What could I be to please my mother? What could I do to bring peace to my heart? I was spinning around till I found that part of me that was always free. Now I'm here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. Yes, I am. I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. If you're walking asleep, moved by the way of this world, so turn around till it's hard to discern what is up or what is down. Stand still and be your salvation. You are a child of God's creation. You're the light of the world. You are God of the land. And as you away, you must confess I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I am, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Was said in the beginning. Come on, sing a song with me right now. I am here for God. Oh yeah, was said in the beginning. Oh, thank you, God, for I know that I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. Well, good morning. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God said. Welcome this morning to Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. We are here each and every Sunday morning where I present to you what I call Serendipity Sunday. Serendipity simply means something good and unexpected. And I pray that your life is filled with serendipitous moments throughout each day. I am Asar, your host each and every Sunday out here at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can find me in the Zoom room. For those of you who have linked in this morning, good morning. To those of you who are joining by way of our YouTube channel, Oasis Spiritual Center, I say good morning to you all also. Each week I bring a brief, thought-provoking presentation with the intent of contributing to your continued expansion as divine spiritual beings having this human paradigm called living. In religious circles, we hear so much about walking in the light, being children of the light. But is there another part to this conversation that we haven't engaged in? So this morning, I want to explore the concept of spiritual enlightenment and what is essential to achieving it. So again, thank you for joining me this morning for this message within Serendipity Sunday, entitled The Darkness or Darkness Precedes Light. Seldom do we give thought to this fact. What fact? That darkness always precedes light. We maybe don't even think about it. We're so focused on the light, but there is something that comes before the light. So we don't give thought to it. Before there was light, there was darkness. In the cosmology of the Abrahamic religions, we find in the opening act of Genesis, God stating, "Let there be light," just like this song we just listened to by Ricky Byers entitled Genesis. God said, "Let there be light." In the beginning, let there be light. This cosmological story is predicated or predated by the Memphite cosmological story, or the Nile Valley cosmological story, or story of the beginning. And it talks about darkness being the nun, N-U-N. We see darkness, which everything comes from. It's the zero state of possibility. Out of darkness, the word of God says, in the beginning, that there was darkness. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. So we find herein a hidden truth. It's the key to growth. It's the key to your health. It's the key to your expansion or becoming what is known as enlightened. We all need darkness, or we all require darkness. But we're not comfortable with it. For our biological clocks require darkness. There's a thing called the circadian rhythm. It works by helping us make sure that the body processes are optimized at various points during a 24-hour period. The term circadian comes from the Latin phrase it comes from the Latin phrase circa diem, which means around a day. And so our day is regulated whether or not we know it, or not. Many of us regulate our day according to events. We regulate our days according to timepieces called clocks. But we don't really regulate our day in sync with nature, the natural rhythm of life. When the sun goes down, we should be turning it down. When the sun begins to rise, we should be rising. But there are some things that happens during the dark as well as the light. My question is, why do so many of us fear the dark? Or why do things that are dark or black in nature are given the connotation of being negative? Today, black has gradually made its way from being a color that was strictly associated with grief and death and morbidity to one that is known as a fashion staple today that radiates with sophistication. You find people wear black as a color. It does a lot of things. It makes you appear smaller or appear much more regal. So we see some shiftings taking place. I recently read an article some time ago, and this article, I think it was in Psychology Today, and it stated that prehistorically, people would have been more at risk of being attacked by predators or by enemies when in the dark. In this article, it says, through evolution, humans have therefore developed a tendency to be scared of the dark. And that's true. You know, I watch Nature Channel often, and I would say to myself once, was watching a particular Nature Channel about what was going on in certain parts of Africa when the sun go down. Nocturnal creatures would come out, hunters would come out, and they hunted in the night. And so the night could be a very fearful place for those beings that are accustomed to walking in the light, because it's in the night that you could be attacked. It's in the night that you could fall into pits, places that you can't see with your eyes. So we just have a natural biological leaning towards light because of safety. And I talked to you earlier this month, we were talking about the brain, and the brain's primary function is for it to pick up the five senses and protect you, to keep you from killing yourself, to keep you from having things that are not that don't appear to represent your highest and greatest good. But we have to understand that this thing called darkness is an element that preceded everything, and we must become comfortable with it. Though I'm talking about or introducing you to the topic of spiritual enlightenment, I have to start with darkness. So when we talk about enlightenment, the etymology of the word, the en is from the Latin and Greek, which means into and light. Into light, Old English meaning the concept of photons that illuminate, brighten, or clarity. The state of being in the light. The implication here is bringing clarity to knowledge to a situation. So we all need a level of enlightenment. Enlightenment says we have gotten the lesson. But to truly move into the state of clarity, growth, and full expression, we all must experience the contrast called darkness, the night. We don't really care for the night. Many of us spend as little time as possible in the night. And when we are in the night, we have on a night light, or we may have the television on. We have something on, one to drown out perhaps the creaks and cracks that you may hear in your home that causes you to become fearful. But we got to understand that nature gives us a true picture of how we should live. I like to use the analogy of a seed. In every seed, there is possibility of potential for full expression, each of us. We have the possibility of full expression. That is to get to our expected end, or the expected end that the Creator has for us. That is in line with our design. However, in order to get to your expected end, you must be willing to be subjected to a process known as the growth principle. So enlightenment is very points in your life, or at certain stages of your life, you have these aha moments, these moments of enlightenment where you understand, or you have a level of understanding of what has come up until this moment, and things begin to make sense. But life is filled with stages of enlightenment. It's called growth. Looking at the wisdom book of the Bible, in the book of Mark, chapter 4, 26 through 32, chapter 4, verses 26 to 32. I'm going to use that as a anchor this morning to help you understand a very natural principle that darkness is required in. In the book of Mark, we find that Jesus is speaking here in verse 26. He says, "This is what the kingdom of God is like. A man scatters seed on the ground," verse 27, "night and day." Now that's interesting. It says it scatters the seed the night and the day, in the darkness and in the light. We scatter seed. When you look at the cosmological story back in Genesis, it talks about day being defined, the definition of a day. For most of us, we define our day from the day to the night. But for those of us who are spiritually adept, spiritual scientists, we know the scriptures clearly tells us that day starts in the night. From the night to the day was the first day. So it's important that we begin to align ourselves with nature, with natural things. It says in verse 27, "A man scatters seed on the ground night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up." The seed, once it's done, whether he goes to sleep or get up, the seed sprouts and grows. Though he does not know how, or they didn't then, we know now. All by itself, the soil produces grain. First the stalk, then the head, then the full kernel in the head. As soon as the grain is ripe, man puts the sickle to it because the harvest has come. Why does a seed need to be in the dark? I looked at that and I found that the presence of light tends to inhibit growth. I know we talk about light contributing to our growth. We talk about walking in the light, being children of the light, but we're missing part of the conversation. A seed that is left exposed to the light never grows. The light decomposes carbonic acid gas and expels oxygen, which lead the seed to harden. These gases are key factors that promote what we call germination. In dark environments, the gases remain undisturbed and the germination is favored. So why is darkness important to plants as well as to you and I? We're gonna circle back as to understanding that contrast or darkness that you experience in your life is necessary. The greater the darkness, the greater the glory will be. So when we talk about plants, shrubs, and trees using sunlight for what is we call photosynthesis during the daytime, but at night they need darkness to regenerate a key compound. So that's important. Just as a seed that's planted needs the sunlight, once it hits, it sprouts, then the photosynthesis takes place. There's a need for darkness to regenerate a key compound, phytochrome. Now, we don't need to get into the details of it. Nighttime lighting can reduce vegetation's ability to properly create this compound. So you have to be very careful when you have night lights, even on your plants. You have to understand the makeup of that particular plant. But I'm talking about a general seed here today. I'm talking about the need for the proper level of darkness and complementary light. Too many of us are just focused on the light. The light is that which is so apparent, but it's in the darkness where you see the thing that is hidden. Why is darkness so key for those of us who are divine spiritual beings? Because as long as we are walking according to light, we're walking according to sight. We're walking according to what we can see, what is registering to our eyes, through our eyes to our brains, what is apparent. Because you have to understand that what is apparent can limit you. What you see can limit you. When you can't clearly see a thing, you tend to focus a little harder. You tend to pay more attention. But when you think you have seen it all, know it all, you perhaps will miss a detail. So let's explore seed, because in this parable, we see that Jesus is talking about a seed being sown, and that it has nothing to do with the sower from that point on, because the seed or a thought has a way to manifest based on its design. When we talk about a typical seed has three components to it. The most obvious is that what you can see is the outer shell, also known as the seed coat. Now, this seed coat protects the inner workings of this item or this seed. Just as you have a seed coat, you have a skin that envelops your entire being. That's your seed coat. Then in the next part of the seed, inside the shell, the largest piece you see is called the endosperm. It's really the stored pack of plant food. Okay. It's not activated. It's there. It's not activated until the seed is planted in the proper environment. Now, it could be planted surfacely, and it's tricked into believing that it's in the right environment and it begins to grow, but because it has no depth, it can't take on the next aspect. So you got an outer shell, you have the inner makings as known as the endosperm, the internal parts of the plant where growth starts. And then you have inside of that a baby plant known as an embryo. So a seed has three parts to it. It has an outer shell, an endosperm, which is, if you pull back the shell, all that hardness you see. And if you pay close attention, you'll probably find a small dark piece in there, which is the embryos, the plant, the thing that's really going to grow. The thing that thing is made of. It's hidden. And just as well as each one of us, we've never looked to the innermost being of who we are. We define ourselves by our outer shells. We define ourselves by our physicality, by the skin we're in, black, white, color. We define ourselves by our phenotype, male, female. We define ourselves by all these external things. But the true essence of who we are is hidden deep within. It's the embryo. It's the spirit. Now, what happens normally with a seed, it breaks the shell. In order for the shell to be broken, there has to be usually a dark night of the soul, or it's planted into the ground. It's surrounded by rich, fertile soil in the most perfect environment. And while it's surrounded by this rich, fertile soil, it appears to be a death. Now, many of us are afraid of death, are afraid of dying. The dark night of the soul that many of us encounter, that's basically when you have a life-changing moment. It could be loss of a loved one or loss of something very significant to you, a change in your health, something that turns you inside and begin to look at or look to a higher power or to God in the typical religious language. Something has broken the shell and you begin the search for significance. So it's interesting that when a seed is sown and the shell is broken, the first thing that comes out is the root. And even if the seed is sown upside down, that root knows how to go south, to go deeper. It's going to the place where it can receive water. It's going to the depth that is required. Because of its design and it knows it's going to be a certain height, it knows that it has a certain depth to it. So sometimes the darkness, the deeper into darkness will launch you into a larger place in life. So this root goes south. And most of us don't know that the root naturally knows to go deeper. And as it goes deeper, it begins to tap into the water source. It begins to go as deep as it needs to go, so that when this plant, when its design is ultimately in the earth and it's going to grow to a 200 feet tree, it has to have deep roots. It has to be able to withstand the winds of change or the winds of the weather. So it's naturally designed to get to its expected end. The scripture tells us that God knows the plans that it has for us, to prosper us, to get us to our expected end. We have to allow the process, though. How many times you've been in a situation that was less than perfect, that was contrasting, that was a dark moment in your life, and you're praying to come out of it. You're praying for light. You're seeking answers or assistance to stop the process. You abort it. You abort your design. You have to be willing to go through the dark moments of life. That's critical. So the seed shell is broken when it's planted. The root comes out and it goes deeper south, begins to take up the nutrients, and then a shoot goes up and it sprouts and it finds its way through the soil and even can find its way through the sunlight. See, that teaches you something. Have you ever been somewhere in a concrete jungle, like walking downtown or walking through a neighborhood, and you see a blade of grass or a plant coming up through the concrete? And that's what you have to understand, that you can grow where you're planted if you're planted in the place that has all the nutrients. And even through the concrete, this thing grows. You got to know this. You can grow through whatever is covering you, whatever is attempting to hide you. If you're planted and if you're allowing the process to take place, you shall grow. So we see the root goes south, the shoot goes up. And once the shoot goes up and breaks the ground, now it uses sunlight to feed itself. But in the darkest hours, it did not use sunlight. It used the darkness. It used the very thing that is inside of itself. And so you got to go within. And so when we talk about enlightenment, it's the process of going within. Even though we say into the light, it really reflects going into self. Why would you go into self and not into God? Because the deeper you go into self, you'll find that the source of who you are is the source of what you are. You are God. Now, we're moving into this time of the year where we're going into the darkness in the northern hemisphere, not the southern hemisphere. So you got to know your orientation. This is not happening. We're not moving into the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, only in the northern hemisphere. So you always got to know how to orient yourself. So as we move into the winter solstice, what is happening? There's a maximum tilt to the earth It tilts to its farthest point away from the sun in the northern hemisphere. And this time of year represents the shortest period of sunlight. Many of you may have paid attention to that. Even without the manipulation of the clock, you've come to see that at this time of the year, the daylight appears to be getting shorter. And we don't like it because we got to rush to do a lot of things. We don't like it because when we get off work, it's time to shut it down. So it's this time of year that you need to be aware of something. It's during this time of the year that we experience what is known as the longest night of the year. So in December, we go into the winter solstice. If you were in the southern hemisphere, this happened in June. But for us here in the northern hemisphere, we go into the winter solstice during the month of December. And it's interesting is during the time of the year that things appear to be dead. It's a time of year where the weather is not favorable for most of us. It's a time of the year where we get very little sunlight. And for people who are people of color, people who are melanated, this has a drastic effect on us. One, because we're getting less light. Two, we're covered up because of the elements. So we have to wear overcoats. We have to wear hoodies and hats and gloves and masks. All these things, that only thing that is exposed is just our eyeballs that we may see. But we are covered up the majority of who we are, and it impacts us because we are children of the light. Our physical skin synthesizes like that grain or sprout that comes through the ground, and now it feeds itself from the light. And so you have to understand that you need a level of light during this time of year. Many individuals are affected. They have seasonal affective disorder, become depressed, sad, emotional states. It's because you are not getting enough light. But you have to understand this too, that the body requires night as well as light. I talked earlier about the circadian clock that we have, and that most of our circadian clocks are off because of work schedules, because of living schedules, for a variety of reasons. And so we're out of balance. So we have to bring ourselves back into balance. And what better way to do that than begin to live in alignment with nature? So this time of the year, December 21st. December 21st is that time of year where you experience the shortest day of the year. Now, sometimes it fluctuates, but it's usually around December 21st, where you have the shortest day of the year. From December 21st to December 24th or December 25th, which we call Christmas, where we celebrate the birth of Christ. Because we don't understand astrotheology, we are thinking that it represents the birth of the physical or the historical personage of Jesus the Christ, but it has nothing to do with that. Because we've never studied it, because we have just taken what has been given to us. That's why the scripture tells all of us to study, to show yourself approved as a workman who need not be ashamed. When you understand these stories beyond the mythicalness of them and the message behind them, then you'll become enlightened. December 21st to December 24th represents the time where it appears to the ancients that the sun had died, that it had lost its power, only for the December 25th, when the sun begins to rise, and that day forth, the days began to elongate. the sun was born again. And it's an ever-going cycle. So what am I saying to you this morning? That we must become familiar with the cycles of life. We must be able to embrace whatever season or whatever cycle that we're in. Don't be so quick to come out of what you're in. Get the lesson that's within the blessing. Ultimately, you're going to come out of this season of darkness. You're going to come out of this season of gloom. You're going to get through whatever you're growing through. And then it'll be a blessing. But until it becomes a blessing, it's a lesson. We all have to learn to live the lesson. We all need to bring our lives in alignment with nature, with nature. This time of year, you should be toning it down, not turning it up. No, I understand. Sometimes we celebrate. We've worked hard all year. This is a time of year where we turn it up. But you might be turning off your destiny. This is a great time of the year to have a level of balance, to go inside, to look to what I call recapitulate, to look back over the year that has been, and to see the patterns that is repeated year in and year out. And perhaps this is the time where your design can truly kick in, because you understand that you've been living from the outside in versus from the inside out. Everything you need to be what you've been designed to be, you already have in you. All you have to do is acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you have a divine design, and then position yourself to grow through the things that you must go through. The losses, the wins, the periods of stagnancy. Did you know some seeds that are planted take a longer maturation time for it to come forward? So you can't base what is happening in your life upon what is happening in someone else's life. You've taken the same steps as they've taken, but you're a different kind of seed. It doesn't take 3 days for you to germinate. It takes 12 days. It takes 12 days because your root is going deeper. And as your root goes deeper, that means you can go higher. Each of us has a unique design. One is not better than the other, but concern yourself with your design. All things happen in God's time, in Source's time. So this week, so that you can better understand the season that we're in as we move into this winter solstice, we're going to, on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will send this information out. You can check my Facebook page. You can check your emails probably later today. We're going to be joined by a sister that I recently met, but has been following for some years. This sister is a cool asset. Many women know her from the industry of beauty. She does a lot of work in that area, transformative work. But she is, for the last 10 years, she's been leading a community that really embraces what the winter solstice is all about. So we're going to have a conversation with her on this Wednesday. You can look in the link later on today, and you can sign up to be part of not only that conversation, but you could sign up so that you can be part of what's going on right now since the beginning of this month. Today is the 4th, so for the next 17 days leading up to the 21st of December, there's certain things that she's offering or extending to us. Doesn't cost you a thing. But you got to take on the new work. I know during this time of years, we talk about what we want to take off, what we want to let go, but also include what you want to take on. And a lot of times, if you focus on what you want to take on versus what you have to let go, you will find it'll be a lot easier. When you're thinking about what I must stop doing, then you feel like losses. But when you think on what you must start doing, then it has more of a positive influence. Yes, everything does work out perfectly. EWOP. All things work together for the good of those who understand or love the law, who are intimate with the law, and are called or living according to its purpose. The thing that appears to have meant for destruction is the very thing that is a catalyst for your good. So when we talk about enlightenment, when we talk about being a children of the light, we also must look at the other side of that conversation. We're the children of the darkness also. Dark and light. Day and night. The full balance of things. Don't be lopsided. Don't be one-sided. Be full. Be circumspect. Understand the whole matter of a thing. That's my message this morning. That we are not only children of the light, but we're children of the night. That darkness always chases light. I'm sorry. Light always chases darkness. Darkness comes before everything. The thing you imagine came from the state of darkness, from the place of the unknown. The scripture tells us at night in the darkness, while we are sleeping, slumbering on our beds, that source drops into us. It enlightens us. It corrects us. It gives us direction in the darkness. If you never go into the darkness, if you never fall into the state of sleep, you won't get the full impact that source wants to give you. So that's all I have this morning. I pray that something that's been said today that is uplifting and encouraging will be the catalyst for you to begin to maybe look at something in another way, and not just to run from dark things or black things or think negative of black or darkness or night, but also appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yes, appreciate it. Good. It's good to see you, Akua. No, you didn't miss the word, because the word is going to be, it's recorded and you will be able to get it. I will make sure of that. Matter of fact, if you looking, for anyone who came in late, all you have to do is wait about 10 minutes and go to Oasis Spiritual Center's YouTube channel, and you'll find this message, this unedited version. But what I usually take is I take this unedited version, I edit it out, and then I send it out to you all by way of email. So you'll get it. So this morning, if this ministry has been a blessing to you, if you've stuck around for any period of time, then there was something you got out of it. Consider sowing a seed into this ministry, a seed into my life, not because I have a need or because I'm expressing what you may say is greed, but because you understand the principle of circulation, the principle of you reap what you sow. You sow nothing, you grow nothing. But you got to make sure you're sowing into a fertile place. Now, I believe this is a very fertile place. I believe the nutrients in this place is so much different from what you can get anyplace else. Why? Because this is a uniquely designed ministry. There's not another ministry like it in the earth, because there's no one else like me in the earth. But we all resonate with what takes place here. So as you sow your seed into this place, it prospers not only you, it prospers this ministry, and it allows the nutrients of your seed to grow this thing in a bigger way. So if you desire to be a blessing, you can go to the website, www.oasisspiritualcenter.com. Go over to the giving tab, find the platform that best fits you, and you can transmute. That is, take what you have in your hand, in your account, and a portion of that gets to our account. So I appreciate it. So right where you are this morning, take that seed in your hand, imaginary seed. Imagine maybe it's $10, $20, $50, $100, $1,000, whatever denomination you want, imagine it to be, and repeat after me. In my hand, I hold my seed. I sow my seed, not for greed, neither need, but I sow my seed in alignment with spiritual principles. As I sow my seed, I shall reap a bountiful harvest. And so it is. Circulate, circulate, circulate. Thank you for your time. Look here, I got a couple minutes. I want to see if there's any questions. For those of you who are in the Zoom room, if you have a question, I do see one hand up. Good morning, Amir. I see your hand. How are you doing? I hope you're still with me. You had a comment or a question?
I want to, first of all, thank you for a powerful revelation of truth. The one thing that I realized in this seed message was that every seed, according to the fruit that we're anticipating, has a different maturation period. And that maturation period is a time of, I guess, fear can be related to not knowing when it's going to produce, but never losing the faith of watering that seed daily. Remember the story of the bamboo shoot. You don't see anything for 5 years, but the day you don't water it or treat it like it's there, it won't come. So what happened? You get nothing for all that time you put in, and all you had was one more day, and that one more day would have gave us a beautiful, beautiful fruit that we can utilize and enjoy for our pleasure. So it's just a matter of holding on to what you know, and you know it. I just want to be an encouragement that we must believe that everything works out perfectly.
Yes.
Regardless of what it looks like, God is in the working of it out. It's got no choice. That's just how it has to be. I went through Hurricane Andrew, and that was the most horrific time of my life. But looking at the community that I live in now, as a result of that, everything works out perfectly. So I thank you, family, for allowing me to participate in this lesson with you. And I pray that it moves in your soul, in your life, like it has mine. I love you, baby.
I appreciate that. That story of the bamboo shoots is so apropos. Many times we may think, so that bamboo shoot knows that as long as I'm where I'm supposed to be, I'm going to grow. I'm going to grow into my full possibility. And many times all that bamboo shoot is praying is, let the waterer keeps watering me. And so for many of you, many times something has gone off inside of you. You began to grow. You've been planted. But because maybe a year has gone by, 4 years have gone by, and you're not seeing the fruit that you expect, other people who have sown the same seed and they appear to be prosperous, their business is going forth, but yours is not. And look at 40, you guys don't know, this year, it's been 40 years of ministry, 10 years as a minister, and 30 years after that, for a total of 40 years. I pastored for 30 years. My congregation never reached beyond 200, 250. And I never got all of them together at the same time. But I kept going. For 20 years, for the last 20 years, I have a prayer line many of you know nothing about. But you've been given the invitation. Never came. But this prayer line goes on every morning at 6 o'clock. Rain, sleet, or snow. The prayer line kicks off. There's been seasons in my life where I kind of fell off. The prayer line kept going, and I took a break because I was just overwhelmed with what life was. But because it had been planted and grown roots, it was able to continue on. And when I woke up and came back to myself and rejoined the prayer line, it was still going. And so even now, sometimes we look at what we're doing and we measure the effectiveness of it based on numbers, but it's not in the number. It's in the quality of what you're doing.
Okay.
Stop looking for numbers. Stop putting a set time on what source is going to do for you or through you. Just be willing to be part of the process. Amir, I appreciate that.
One quick question for you, my
Mhm.
friend. For that example of the 40-year story you just told me,
Mhm.
I take it you've learned the difference between planted and buried.
Yes. Yes. For me, buried implies dead. Planted implies I'm positioned where I need to be strategically, and I'm growing through what I'm going through. But I
We
want
all
to
need to
you
pull
all.
that in. We
Yeah.
all need to pull that into our being of
Yeah.
knowing the difference between planted and buried.
Yes.
Thank you, brother, for allowing me to share. I
Thank
appreciate you.
you. Sister Hasefi, how are you doing this morning? You have the mic. You just have to unmute yourself, I believe.
I'm unmuted. Good morning,
There you
everyone.
go. Good morning. Good to hear your voice.
I just really wanted to first thank you for the lesson, and also encourage people to embrace the darkness for enlightenment, because Blackness clothing is associated with intelligence. Places like priests were Black,
Yes.
judges were Black, sorcerers were Black. Because it's a symbolic of knowledge and infinite knowledge. And if you going into meditation, you have to close your eyes. You got to go into the darkness. So for enlightenment, you have got to embrace the darkness. So I truly, truly appreciate the message. And I just kind of wanted to give that visual in terms of where, if you notice certain people who are considered knowledgeable or wise, they were Black.
The priests wear Black, the judge wear Blacks. We talk about, but it's interesting that we also have been taught that everything Black is bad. Okay, Black magic, of the witch, which is we don't understand when we say witch is not the wicked witch, but it means witchcraft, not WITCH, but WHICH. Which craft do you work in? Like I operate in the craft of numerology. I operate in other crafts too. And each of you, if you will open yourself, expand beyond the limitations that have been imposed upon you, you've been buried inside, imprisoned too, and open yourself up to your unique design, you will find that you got the gift also. Thank you, Hasefi, for that. Awesome. Good. Well, we do have, good morning, Akua. I'm glad you were able to join us this morning. I'm going to ask if you would unmute yourself, and I just want to say hello and have a couple minutes of conversation with you. How are you doing this morning, Akua?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hear you well. Thanks for coming in this morning. And really want to thank you for agreeing to have a conversation with me via Zoom on this coming Wednesday, where we will unpack the winter solstice, answer some questions that people may have, and just educate our community about the necessity to come in alignment with nature. And maybe this year they won't be able to fully participate, but then next year they can be prepared. Awesome. So is there anything you want to say to us this morning about the winter solstice that may pique the interest of the listeners this morning?
Well, I just want to thank you for showing up for 40 years. Like 40 in itself is a divine number. So thank you for your service. And the best thing that I can say about winter solstice is to step out of this illusion that's been created for us and reconnect with nature. Like even something as simple as when the sun rises, you rise, when it sets, you set. Like that's really the first step of observing the winter solstice. And it's just being in tune with what's going on. The longest nights of the year, the 21st, the solstice actually being the longest night of the year. And I make a point of not using artificial lighting during this time of the year to just really be in sync with nature. And what you get out of that is just all the power that we can derive from source, from being in flow with source, being rhythm with source, being tapped into source, and all those beautiful things. So I wanted to keep it short, but you, Pastor Gregory, has sent out a email inviting people to participate, and there's no set way, because you're tapping into the Most High, to source. You will know what you need to do. We're all at different levels of being in flow with nature and being out. So, that's pretty much what I have to say. And I guess we're going to talk about it further this week.
Yes.
So I hope you all will be there for that as well.
So let me ask you this, since I do know that you are a person who operates in the beauty industry, how important is darkness and sleep to skincare?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. Sleep, laughter. Sleep is everything, though. I mean, just, you can't go, which a lot of us do, roll out of bed, check our cell phones, and then go, and don't listen to our bodies. But if you're going, you got to also rest, so the body can repair itself. And if the body doesn't get a chance to repair itself and rest, it begins to degenerate, to die. And so if you're degenerating, that's definitely going to show up in the cosmetics of this sacred temple that we're walking around in. So it's everything.
Yeah, so we're gonna pull that into the conversation this coming Wednesday also. And for those of you who don't know Akua, you will find the link that'll give you more about her, and you're going to be surprised that Source has just made us a way for us to bump up against greatness. So I thank you for tuning in, tapping into us this morning. And I want to close this morning with the song we started with. For all of you who have joined me, I appreciate you. For all of you who have been on this journey with me for 40 years, it's been a hard, difficult journey at times, but it has prepared me for a time such as this, to be out in front with the word that is most appropriate for this time, a life-changing word. What helped us yesterday will not get us through today. And if it could, we wouldn't be in the positions that we are. So join me as we close this morning with this song, In the Beginning, by Ricky Byers.
I was walking past with you.